Alrighty, welcome back everyone. This is class number 5. We're going to continue the UX UI class right now. Everyone's in the classroom, almost everyone. And we're going to switch the camera over now and continue our sessions. So here we go. So just to confirm the assignment that's due for this week, we pushed it over till Sunday, just to give you some extra time to curate it a little nicer and get some other nice ingredients in there for the details. I like detail for the user persona, especially for the UI kit, It's good to have a minimalistic approach with design, a lot of space, but the details have to go where they belong. So that's a very important thing you should consider, because then it looks like you're lacking some design elements in the delivery, especially with some of these assignments. So as I said, this is class number 5. I'm going to download this skeleton definition PDF. This is kind of like associated with the last one. It's like a continuation. It just predefines the more important parts of the UX planes. So I'm just going to download that one there. Well, I guess I already downloaded that one. It's called skeleton in the UI design. Because we talked about the strategy, we talked about the scope, the structure, and the skeleton is pretty much very in tune with the structure, but it also has to deal with how it's kind of delivered and connected all together. That's why we have the skeleton anatomy here. You can see how everything is interconnected, the joints and stuff. Function given form, basically. The skeleton plane focuses on concrete issues of presentation. Things like what form will the product take? How will the users move around and do things? And how will content be presented and manipulated? The skeleton plane is created through interface design, because this class used to be called interface design before we changed it to UX/UI design. And the more, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but the teacher that taught this was a new class at the time. They used InDesign and Photoshop and Illustrator to do user interface designs, somewhat similar to what we did in Photoshop last semester, making websites and things like that. Well, a lot has changed since then. So that's right now we're incorporating more advanced prototyping programs like XD and Figma, along with the Photoshop and Illustrators, because I think it's still important to keep those design formulas in at hand, because they can produce more complex things than any of these new ones for sure. So it is the interface design segment when it comes to skeleton. Provides users with the ability to do things, of course. And we all know this quick review on the perception of the user. The work of the skeleton has to enable several key principles for a positive user experience. So these are things you have to do, like a checklist on when you do your app or website. You have to ask yourself these questions, because if you don't, no one's going to do it for you. Okay. Things like you have to rapidly establish value in the user's mind, lead the user toward continuing the experience, introduce specific content at the most relevant, most appropriate points in the experience, and immediate value with each click or tap. Add positively to the overall experience over time with each interaction. I mean, this sounds pretty good in theory, but practically to apply it might be somewhat challenging. But your job as a designer is to focus on as many points as possible to have a positive user experience. So again, those are the very important points. If you were watching this and didn't have a copy of this, I would ask you to screen capture it. Yeah, better yet, write these points down, because they're very important. Function given form, features versus usability. We went over this a little bit, just a quick review on the scale. What can you do? What can't you do? What are the trade-offs? and you can draw a scale like this, and the number of functions available on screen has a direct effect on how useful the product is. The more functions shown, the less useful they are. So basically, overcrowding, overgurgitating of things that are useless, it creates noise, and it's very hard for people to focus clearly on what's supposed to be done. So that's a good little scale to illustrate that. I find the perfect balance to be the answer. So right in the middle is where you want to be. You can't have too few, you can't have too many things happening at the same time. Habit and reflex account for much of our daily interactions. Our ability to do anything depends on the accumulation of reflexes, most of which are pretty small. Convention, notice how it's bolded? Convention is what allows us to use those reflexes. Conventions often match our expectations of what something is supposed to do or be like. Those are very common symbols and icons that you see. They're universal. They're conventional. That's why most people use them on any type of UI kit, website interface, templates, whatever you, operating systems, mobile devices, computers. And there's a few other ones as well, but those are the most common ones. The search and the trash can are good examples of that. The only time you should deviate from a well-established convention is where there's a clear, obvious benefit of doing so. And you can see how that was transitioned from, well, this is an iPhone, an old iPhone, and that's an old Android. Well, that was 10 years ago. So right now it's different. The interfaces look a lot different than what you see there right now. And there was a good reason to do that, whether it's the way the user interface was clearly established, there was more functions included. I'm sure they did a lot of market research, consumer research, or user experience research to make the changes necessary. And these keep happening over time. Notice my new upgrade on the new Galaxy S phones and the Galaxy Flip that I have here. I kind of like the new, even the icons change at some point. It looks pretty cool. I'm sure you've noticed it with some of the other brands as well. Although the functionality of an app or a site is important, the form used to deliver that function is equally important. So the form consists of those points that you see there, which is the organization of content, the layout of the screen, the use of audio and video, how people use their hands and fingers to move through data. No matter how technically superior the code is or how deep its functionality, the bottom line is an app or site whose interface is too difficult to use, it won't be used. Okay, so let me just back it up this one for a second. This is when you guys design your app, you have to make some decisions like, are you going to swipe? Are you going to click? Are you going to drag? These are all common things that people are used to doing, and you have to find a nice fit for your functionality to be included in your design. So this will come back to you guys after there. A few ground rules, of course. To most people, the user interface is the system because what people see is what they interact with. Although there's a lot of stuff in the back end that you're in charge of, or you and the development team might create. But to most people, what they see is what it is for them. It's the system. A well-designed user interface allows people to start using it immediately with little or no help. And let's face it, these days, nobody wants to watch an instruction video on how to use a website or how to use an app or a game or anything. Some of the more complex games I see, tutorials, even like, I don't know if you guys do, what's the other one I was using the other day? Even the cryptocurrency apps and stuff, they all have new features. They tell you do this and do that. A lot of the banking apps, the trading apps, they all have a little tutorial, take a tour, then you take the tour and they tell you how to use it. It's also legally, they're inclined to do so because you don't want to make a mistake and hit the wrong button too. So you're trying to make it user friendly as much as possible, but if you have to put instructions, you have to put instructions. That's just how it is. The UI design also has to be audience appropriate. You can't use certain terminology and things. You got to be careful. So you have to cater to every crowd. You can't offend people. Just because you understand it doesn't mean somebody else will. So don't always think of yourself. You have to get everybody included, right? That's why it's a team environment. That's why you test your app or product with various people, multiple people, whether it's cultures, right? Genders, everything. Inappropriate user interface design is the number one killer of great product ideas. Okay. The product could be really, really good, but if the interface sucks, if it doesn't work with the audience, it's not going to be successful. So it's so important to get a proper user interface for a product. It's better to perfectly meet the needs of the critically few than to poorly meet the needs of many. And of course, these are some of the predictable labels we looked at earlier. Just I thought I'd throw them in there again. Predictability, okay? Labels, instructions, icons, and images set expectations about what to do. Touch here, what will happen, open this, drag it over here. Where the user will go, foster a sense of place. How the screen will respond to X and Y will happen. So that's predictability. Predictability has to be introduced in some way, shape, or form. Consistency is another important core principle that has to do with the skeleton phase. Usability improves when similar parts are expressed in similar ways. So similarity equates to consistency. This functional consistency leverages existing knowledge, familiar meaning and action, navigational reference points, simplified usability, increased, this is the best one, intuitive learning. Intuitive learning means, try it once, learn it forever. Realistically, you try it a few times and hopefully you learn it as you go along, right? It becomes natural. Yeah, we know this already. I don't have to tell you guys about it. A website, if you're designing anything, has to, whether it's an email client, not just a website, has to work on all devices, tablets, desktops, and mobile devices. And because most people are using mobile devices, it's mobile first. I'm doing a little Shopify store for one of my clients, and first I did it on the mobile app. I have a link. I'll quickly show you what it looks like. But it looks even better on the mobile phone than it looks on the desktop. And for me, that was a win-win because I know most people are going to be doing stuff on their phone, ordering parts and things like that. So that was my first was like the Google approach is also the same. It's called mobile first. Win with Google mobile first. So try to hit the mobile design to look good first, because you got to go where the audience is, and most people are here. Unless you're doing like a system or a platform that people usually use a computer, then yeah, maybe you should put the desktop first and then put the mobile second. I find the tablet in the middle somewhere. I mean, tablets are useful. I love using my tablet when I can in the car. Sometimes when I go to sleep, I put on YouTube or whatever, do some other minor interactive things. But that's like my third option. So my first option would be phone, desktop second, tablet third. And some people might decide to do desktop first, mobile second, tablet third. Tablet is usually third. The progressive disclosure. Progressive disclosure means that everything should progress naturally from simple to complex. It means that only the necessary or requested information is displayed at any given time. This helps people manage complexity without being confused, frustrated, or disoriented. I would also add one more, overwhelmed, because that's what happens when you have too many complex things happen at the same time. Information presented to a person who isn't interested in it or isn't ready to process it, it's noise. So don't just put stuff that's not needed. Put stuff that's only relevant to what it's supposed to be part of the experience with the user, right? And you can see here like an example of like a standard messaging app or system, and it only gives you two options, not four, right? Intuitiveness again. Remember, intuitive really means single trial learning. We learn behaviors from experiences across the web, from devices, from real world places and objects. Interactions should be easy to learn, which makes them easy to remember. Ideally, use it once, learn it rapidly, remember it forever. Realistically, as I mentioned earlier, is use it a few times and then learn it, hopefully to remember it for as long as you can. Context plus hierarchy, items that are functionally or logically connected, grouped visually together, right? You ask yourself this question, actually. Is the information presented in order of importance to the user? Does the visual hierarchy of the screen and functional behave match the user expects to do first, second, or third? Is the visual layout consistent with the mental model of the person using it? I might get you to do that one day. We all know what that is, right? It's a weather app. So let's look at this closely here. Is this presented in order? Yes or no? Is the information here presented in order? And if you say no, why not? If you say yes, then why? I'm going with a yes. Okay. You can always criticize and say, well, no, it should have done this, it should have done that. But let's really look at it from a realistic standpoint. It's a yes, of course. Okay. When you open your app, what do you want to know first? You want to see what's the weather like, right? Oh, look, we're in Tokyo, right? 70 degrees, right? That's what you want to know. You might want to know also, right? What's going to happen later in the day. So you have a larger, like the biggest, then second biggest icons. And this is Tuesday, which is today. Gives you the weather for the whole duration throughout the period of the day that you're facing. And then it gives you the other information that you probably might care, might not care tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Do you see that? How it's organized. And that's what we're talking about, right? So somebody had to think of this design. Because if you did it, how would you do it? You're going to put the weather and the days. Like, how would you lay this out? So this is the thing you have to really learn from a lot of, I guess, practical, popular design models and implement the same strategy. Okay, because this is how people kind of are used to perceiving things, and it makes sense. I mean, if I was to design this, it might be a little different, but it won't be that much different than what you see from here. I would love for you guys to one day, maybe in Figma, we'll do a weather app just for fun, and you will design your own kind of system. Because all the weather apps, if you pull out your phone right now, let's see what they all look like. Ready? Let's try it. Click on the weather. Mine looks like this. Okay, very similar, not exactly, but similar. Notice how you got 22 degrees. You have a little animation of a person standing wearing a little jacket because it's not that warm, I guess, or cold. Gives you a very similar, like there's a lot of similarities with this model and your model that you see. So what would you say about this on your phone? Is it very similar? Is it very different or no? Hands up if it's like similar. Mine's pretty dead on, so yeah, similar. Not exactly the same though, obviously, right? This one? Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah. So, and if you scroll down, then you see more information. If you scroll down, then you can see like index. If you're into flying drones and kites, you can see the wind velocity. It's too windy. Don't fly your drone, right? Or your kites. You see the moon, you see the other radars, temperatures, and then they throw some weather at you. So as a designer, okay, you'll have to probably maybe not design a weather app, but it's a learning experience that you might have to incorporate a weather widget or weather app in some of your platforms that you're designing. It's a good way to learn and master this strategy and to focus on the key points. Here's another one I like. And these are the questions we're going to ask again. Are the items that are functionally or logically connected grouped together visually? Is the information presented in order of importance to the user? Does a visual hierarchy of the screen and function behaves match the user expects to do first, second, or third? So this is a more complicated design, okay? I think we're looking at a medication kind of chart, or an interface for a pharmaceutical company, right? So they're prescribing drugs to their patients. The patient has to know, hey, what drugs are they taking? Well, there's the two drugs there. There's the prices, right? Then there's the hospital services that are here. Number of physicians in your area. So it's organizing different categories for patients for medical services. Notice how the blue labels and the simple colors of black, white, and blue, I guess, organize information nicely. Tables. Tables are the best way to organize data. A lot of stuff that I do with my product design for my clients, I use tables, even standard old HTML tables, because it's just easy to use it with generative AI, right? This is the last slide, okay? So Hicks law, which app does this remind you of? Hicks law posits that every additional choice increases the time required to make a decision. The more choices you give people, the easier it is to choose nothing. So don't give them too many choices. It is not information overload, it's filter failure. What does that remind you of? I mean, I don't mind Waze. I like Waze. Honestly, I use my no my updated Google thing. But sometimes I find Waze, like when you like get too zoomed out, it gets a little. It used to be like that. There's too many bubbles and chat bubbles and icons and stuff. It's just a little distracting. And of course, you can take out like the filters on the maps, control how Waze presents ideas. But I just found way too many distracted things. So you have to actually go to filters and disable some of these legends and stuff. And if this was like a gas app, you have to get the cheapest gas on those gas stations. You can see how this is going to be hard to manage and control. Let me just double check if there's another extension to this presentation of Skeleton, but I think that's the shorter version that I found. Because then we're moving into information architecture and wireframing. Yeah, so surface design, I'll cover that. So the next one, we're going to cover the surface design where we get into real user interface design elements. That's going to be later on throughout the course. We'll do another slideshow presentation for that. All righty. So now, let's see. Make this visible for you guys here. This is components of the UI kit. I guess we'll do something in XD since we're already training with the software. We're going to design something similar, not the whole thing, but maybe one part of it. The way I introduced you to the application, now I'm going to put it to use and see how exactly it works. This is like a UI kit for a shoe company, Nike Air Max. Building this UI kit will help you build the whole entire app. Because you see all the buttons in here, users, next, previous, likes, like all these different things here are part of the UI design that's going to help you build the app. So the UI kit is a major component and a necessary item to have not only in your portfolio, but in your delivery for any project. Here's a more simple one that you're going to produce something. This is your next assignment, by the way. You're going to make something like that. This was a student, I think, that did it before. But you're going to make your own. So your own color scheme, Okay. You have to include a few sliders, a hamburger menu, buttons, menu items. Okay. So I have a few little listings that I made for you, so you can definitely keep a track of that. Check radio buttons. Everything that you see here was kind of made. And then you can incorporate this and make a website or a mobile app from it, right? Whatever it is that you're trying to design. Because the UI kit is supposed to help you make this possible. And now, if you look at some UI kits online, just to see some ideas, let me show you some, and I'll show you some student ones in the past as well. And you can just look at a whole bunch of UI kit ideas for mobile apps and websites online. Everything has a UI kit, even an operating system like Windows, Mac, OS, right? Everything needs an actual UI kit to have in order to be executed properly. So I know you have an extension for the assignment I gave you earlier, but I have to introduce this one because this one's due in 2 weeks. I told you I don't want to like overlap assignments, but today after we finish the lesson, maybe I'll give you some time to get this thing started or finish the other assignment. And going forward, I will give you a little bit of time in class to do some work as well as we embark on these hands-on assignments and exercises, okay? So let's go ahead and look at the assignment first, and then we'll get into the practical side with Figma, all right? I'll keep the recording going throughout, and then we'll grab a break after. So let's go ahead and look at the assignments here. UI kits. I don't know if you can read that, but I'll try my best to kind of point it out. So for this next assignment, okay, so we did the website critique. I was pretty pleased with most of your work, so that's good. You should get that already back to you guys. That one's already graded. The next one's going to be the user persona. So that's going to be due this Sunday. Like I said, every 2 weeks, you'll have to do a little assignment for me. And then we're slowly getting to the part where you're going to do like a big project. So I'm going to announce the big project. I'll probably start you earlier this semester because it's the summer. I want to make sure everyone has a nice and easy time doing this stuff. In about 2 weeks, you'll get the big assignment, okay? But that's going to be in an individual project you're going to be doing. You're going to be creating an interactive presentation or game, okay? So before we get there, I'm going to teach you, obviously, a lot of the things going forward. So this week, next week, we'll prepare you to get this project started. All right, so as we're approaching the midway point of the semester, you're going to be starting the bigger project. So these little assignments are just a way to prep you to get there. Okay, so what's this assignment about? As you already know, I mentioned it already. You're going to be designing a rough layout model of a UI kit to support the design elements that will play a key role into design production techniques applied to the mobile prototype project. The class exercise, which we're going to do this evening, will help you create this design along with the supported UI kit elements. This is the actual handout that I used to give, and I made a PDF out of it. The size is 1920 by 1080p, so you have a nice big design artboard to work with. What do I want to see? I want to see at least 3 various buttons with navigation styles. So that means you can do like hover, okay? Some in case you want to use the button for a website, not just mobile app, or maybe you can do a press because when you click or tap on something, the button's clicked or checked. You can do it's called a deprecated state. Deprecated means it's clicked, right? So you have 2 states, regular state and a deprecated state, right? So that's what, when I say styles, that's what that means. So at least, so 3 various buttons With styles, I'm going to end up with 6. Because 3 will be normal, the other 3 will be deprecated. A 3 various drop-down hamburger, or I put search menus. Okay, so you can put like a search menu or like a hamburger drop-down menu that has a list of items that come down. I'm sure you've seen that stuff on your phones, and pretty much most apps have a hamburger drop-down menu. At least 3 various sliders. If I say at least 3, you can do like 4 or 5 if you want, but 3 is enough. Okay. Sliders. What are sliders? Sliders are, I don't know, usually it's part of your settings on your phone. Your volume slider, your brightness has a slider, right? Some filters have sliders. If you do like a threshold of pricing or some kind of a filterable search result. So sliders are important and a vital role for any UI kit. We talked about this already. A weather integrated widget or a map component. I did or. Some people do both. So if you don't want to do a weather widget, what's a weather widget? It's not the whole weather app I showed you earlier. It's like a little widget that shows you what the weather is. Maybe you might seen it on your PC or on your phone. I think I have one on my home screen. So there, that's a widget right there. See that top screen of my phone? I'll make it really bright. See, that's my widget, my weather widget on the top screen. So you can see how that's your weather widget on your phone. You're going to make one of those as part of your UI kit, but it's going to match the style of everything else. Or a map component. I'm not talking about Google Maps, but a customized map you can create to navigate from point A to point B. I think Uber has their own maps. Okay. Apple used to have their own maps at one point, and then Google, of course, is the main player with the Google Maps. A lot of people borrow Google for their map systems. Waze has their own map. Waze is different than Google, right? So you can do a map component, which means you can capture a small area and retrace on the map itself. This reminds me of like old business card designs we used to do. I don't know if you guys seen business cards with a map on the back, how to get there, like a barbershop salon or a restaurant, right? Say, we're here, like a flyer, right? They have a little map. But you know what's cool about it? Because back then we didn't have phones, okay? So people couldn't Google, hey, how do you get here, right? Back then, people were like, where are you? Like, how do I get? So you put the main intersection, like let's say Young and Bloor, and then you put Hayden. So you put like 2 big cross lines like that. And then I would put another smaller, thinner line called Hayden Street. And then I would put a star or a symbol on the south side because this is where the school is. So that's why I would put a map design in place to promote the location, right? I know, but that's the stuff you had to make. That was our role as a designer, right? So I'm not saying for you to do something like that, but if you want to introduce any interactive map design for like a Google or Waze or something, you can do that as well. Most people choose the weather widget, so you can choose either or, okay? Now, AI. I don't want you to go to online, search a thing, or get this done through a generated AI stuff, and then say, here we go. I'm going to see how it's done. So I need the work file. I need the Illustrator file and the PDF of your design. Now, because I'm starting XD earlier with you, because I want to give you the little bit of a jump start, I can also accept XD files. So I'm going to add this to the list, okay? I'll put an XD file here. So if you want to, again, if you're more comfortable with Illustrator, because most of you are, a lot of students choose Illustrator for this assignment, that's fine. But if you want to push the envelope, because you can take Illustrator to XD and make it interactive. So that's one part I wanted to add to this assignment, the interactive part. And we'll talk about that later. I will make some adjustments here as an option, okay? So XD, comma, AI, and or a PDF file. Actually, it's already there. Never mind. I totally didn't see it because my screen is so minimized because of this projector here that I'm using. XD. So it is XD there with the design components, sketch, grayscale, and a color rendering. So perfect example of this. This is where you really have to kind of, it's not just making the UI kit. I want to see a sketch, like hand-drawn sketch. I don't care if you're not a good artist, right? Draw boxes with circles. It's okay. It'll work. Because that conveys the message of how your design thinking will go. And then you take that into like a digital wireframe, a grayscale wireframe in Illustrator, and then you do like a nice final color wireframe, final UI kit, full rendered design, okay? And that's going to be done in, let's just take Illustrator as an example. That can be your go-to. Now let me show you what this thing looks like here. So there's the actual handout. I'm gonna save this to my computer and open it. So same thing I just read to you guys, okay? Consider the buttons of icons interact with daily basis and try to carry on a consistent theme throughout. This is a very important and crucial step as it will pave the way for a successful UI design for a mobile device. Follow these criteria steps below to meet the project expectation. So I have here called rough drafts. You will draft out a few ideas on paper or digital screen to create your basic approach to the UI kit. So grayscale, I do want to see a grayscale design because in your portfolio, when you guys do your portfolio, if you just have all like a bunch of thumbnails and finished products, it's not interesting. If you have like I don't know if you did photo restoration or just like a sketch and then a rendered sketch, it tells a story and it looks a little more kind of pausable and interesting to see. Okay. So same with this, the UI kit. You'll have a very rough sketch design and then the final version of it. It'll present a better presentation and a part of the criteria. Okay. So rough draft, good draft. Based on your rough draft, you will then create a full rendered design, which will capture the color elements and interactive behavior states. So I want to see interactivity of your entire UI kit. How would you present me the interactivity? You can create a visual presentation of the interaction, like changing the colors and different buttons, or make it like really interactive. So the buttons will actually work. It'll be like a button board, right? Then I'll get into some of that stuff in XD. All right. This is doing 2 weeks. It's not hard to do. Okay. This is a simple assignment. Once you get the color choice, look, this has the turquoise. Notice how it's grayscale and white. It's always there. So can't go wrong with gray, like a light gray, white, or go with the black. Okay. Then you go with the color element. This one is turquoise. Okay. The one I showed you earlier with the examples here. Find the. Did I open this up here? Oh, here we go. Never mind. Here it is. Okay, so this one, this is a more robust kind of UI kit from Nike. And you can see how even has the signature digital imprint for the fingerprint scan here. See? This was obviously done by a professional. I think maybe they used this for the actual app. You have like members list. This is a more expanded version of a UI kit. Some students did something similar to this. I'm not pushing you guys to go this far, but if you feel like it, I'm not gonna stop you, right? You can do something like that to really work on your portfolio. This is all in your Blackboard. And you can do your own research of UI kits out there. There's tons of them. Every app, every corporation has some kind of a UI kit supported with the product that they made. And here's another one that I got. This is a more realistic one from a student, a former student. I chose this because it's got all the elements in there that I explained. It's got the sliders, got the buttons, got the hamburger menu, it's got the weather widgets, it's got a weather widget built in, right? Has a location thing, map. Pretty much has everything that I talked about earlier that's due for this next assignment. Okay, so you can create your own color scheme and things like that. And I don't know if this might help you later. You might make a real app and use this UI kit. I've had students in the past where they did ask me to say, hey, can I use my UI kit for the project? Because they kind of thought of it beforehand. So I said, sure. They maybe change the colors a bit, or they change some of the other features, but they integrated the UI kit in their real project with the next one that's coming up to you guys in several weeks from now, the group project. So if you feel like you're going to find this useful and maybe make it a few changes and use it for another project, sure, it's going to help you. That's the whole point, right? Why not reuse work that you've done already? Very smart. So I like you to work smart and hard, not just smart and hard, right? Because it pays off at the end. Any questions? What's that? Did you want to grab a quick break and then we continue with the XD part? Or you want to keep going straight? How do you guys feel? Yeah, because the thing is, I finished my whole theory part. Now I'm going to do the hands-on part. And I like to keep them separate. So let's grab a break now, okay? This way the videos are more conveyed separately and they're better structured that way, okay? So having said that, let's grab a quick 10-minute break, okay? Quick 10 minutes, 15 maybe, okay? And then we'll continue in 15 minutes exactly. 7:05, 7:20, we continue the class. All right. So that will end this first session of the recording, and then we're going to do the second session after when we come back. All right. So see you when we come back.